Hello Wolfpack. Now there is a very important part to this video that I want to talk about straight off the bat, because actually it's the only thing I want to talk about today, because I think we talk about enough the bottom and what's happening with Bitcoin in regards to the macro situation, right? I think the macro situation is not very good right now. It's very obvious to tell. We've talked about it a lot in the past, right? Essentially the traditional markets cannot bottom out, and historically speaking they have never bottomed out until interest rates have stopped hiking or even begun decreasing and inflation's topped out. And so at that point, I think it's logical to assume that we have to go low on traditional markets. And given the fact that although Bitcoin and the traditional markets are not directly connected, they are both connected to the macro. And the macro is entailing everything to do with the Federal Reserve, entailing everything to do with inflation. And so long as that picture looks bad, it's probably going to look bad for Bitcoin and hence for traditional markets as well. Now, what I do want to talk about quickly before we get into, I know I said I'd get into it straight away, but I'm kind of going back on that now because I think there are some important things we need to discuss here. One thing is this macro line, and if I bring up the logarithmic scale, and this is what we talked about yesterday in the video with Megawatt Crypto, the collaborative video of Megawatt Crypto. Now, this uptrending line, although I doubt it will hold, although I'm not a massive believer in the strength of this uptrending line, we do have to understand that it is an uptrending line that is of major significance of Bitcoin. And so as long as we hold this uptrending line, and so long as we are bouncing off this uptrending line, which we're doing currently, we do have to make an assumption to a certain extent that perhaps there is a scenario in which Bitcoin has bottomed out here. Now, I don't think that's the case. I don't think Bitcoin's bottomed yet, but we need to be logical. We can't be overly bearish while this macro uptrending line is being held. It's very clearly valid. We bounced off of it here in 2015, we bounced off of it in 2020, and we've bounced off of it right now with a long wick to the downside and some bullish price action, straight after. So, although I don't have much faith in it on a longer term basis, we do need to understand what it is. The fact of the matter is there is a macro support, and until we lose that macro support, we cannot be overly bearish on Bitcoin. Right, so I think that the bearishness right now is just stemming purely from the macro situation. Obviously, the 4-year cycle, I'm a big believer in the 4-year cycle, and I think that, we have not bottomed out yet. I think we'll bottom out probably in Q4, but at this point, I'm not overly concerned with the longer term or when's the bottom predictions, because I think it's very, very hard to say, and I think speculation about it is too preliminary based off such little data that it's just irrelevant, right? So at this point, what we should be looking out for is more evidence on the bottom, but we should be mainly focusing on the shorter to medium term. I think that's the best way to go about Bitcoin right now. It's taken me a few days to come to that consensus, but I think that's just about it. Now, what we can talk about though on the longer term, and this is the topic of this video, is the 200-week SMA, right? The 200-week SMA, you guys know what it is. It's the macro bottom indicator for Bitcoin that has held for support in 2015, right, over a 10-month period, in 2018 over a 4-month period, and 2020 over a 1-month period. And as of right now, we have actually lost it. We've closed below it, which means, yeah, it's either a fake out, which is a possibility, and that's a possibility that I'm going to be over, kind of going over in this video, or it's gone, and we've lost that macro support zone, and hence we can no longer rely on the 200-week SMA as a macro support zone. So let's decide what it is. Have we lost it, or is it just a fake out? And this is where the current price action gets very, very interesting. Now, please note, we have 48 hours, 2 days until the weekly candle closes, which means we have 2 days to get back above 22.4k. If we manage to do that, we will get back above the green line here, and we will further consolidate that as the macro bottom support region. And so if we get back above it within the next 2 days, it would bolster the argument that potentially the bottom is in, right? Which, although it doesn't make sense from the macro perspective, from the TA perspective, it might, right? So that's why it's interesting right now. It's like, well, this is the macro bottom indicator for the entire price history of Bitcoin, and we have 2 days to get back above it, and there's a chance, right? This is where we're looking at the shorter term. Now, on the shorter term of Bitcoin, and before we look at the shorter term, let's look at the daily chart, right? So we can get a kind of overview of where we are. We're in a massive drop. We know that. Since November, we've dropped. Okay, called that out at 66k. Very, very soon to the party here from the Wolves of Crypto channel. Many people on my channel have been prepared for that because we called it out early, but we've been in a massive downwards trend. We saw a massive dead cat bounce, massive downwards trend renewed, and now we're in kind of the lowest price region we've been on Bitcoin since 2020, okay? We wicked all the way down here to 17.5k. What we've got here on Bitcoin on the daily chart is a massive descending channel formation, which obviously is a bullish formation, right? This formation should break to the upside at some point. The only problem with it is that we can swing to the upside for a dead cat bounce and then come back down and swoop down to the bottom of the channel and, as low as like 12k before breaking to the upside. So again, let me just clarify. That channel should break to the upside. The only problem is acting within the bounds of a channel, we could still see much lower prices, right? So it doesn't necessarily matter whether this channel was bullish or not. What matters is whether we break out of it or not. And so in order to confirm, to really start confirming something going from a dead cat bounce to something going into an actual bullish trend, firstly, we need to see a breakout of this larger channel formation. Secondly, we need to be jumping over this red resistance box and forming some new higher highs, in which case we could possibly form something like an inverted head and shoulders pattern like we've got there, and that would be a bullish renewal to the trend, right? But at this point, it's too early to say. Yeah, we're in a bullish channel. Yes, we're on major support, as in the 200-week SMA, as in that macro line, but the macro situation is just terrible, and realistically, it should drag us down. However, this is where it gets really interesting. The shorter term analysis, right? And what we're seeing on the shorter term, really, if we look at this pink pennant formation, now this was actually a bearish pennant formation because we had a long flag ball to the upside, but by a stroke of probability here, we've actually broken it to the upside, right? So we've broken a bearish pennant formation to the upside. We are in an upwards trend currently, a shorter term upwards trend. And what we've actually done is we've broken the pink line to the upside. We've actually come down, and now we're doing a resistance support flip on that pink line, which is extremely bullish. However, at the same time, and if that was just the case, and that alone was just the case, I would actually assume that we'd get back above the 200-week SMA and everything would be good. And then at that point, you'd have to consider, well, is the bottom in, right? The only thing that complicates this is that at the same time as we've broken out of this, bearish pennant formation, we're actually seeing an ascending wedge formation, right? This yellow lines here, these two yellow lines slightly converging towards each other, that is a pattern of exhaustion. So we've got a pattern of a bullish breakout, which recommends we go upwards, and or suggests we go upwards. And then we've also got this bearish pattern of exhaustion in form of this ascending wedge formation, which recommends we break down. And so at this point, I would say that it's actually probably more likely that we break down, because at the same time as we're seeing this pattern of exhaustion on the ascending wedge formation, we're also seeing a bearish RSI divergence, and we're also running straight into some historical resistance, as in the Ichimoku cloud we've only recently flipped. We have flipped the Gaussian channel, however, but for example, something like the bull market support band, if we zoomed out to the one-day chart and took a look at that, we can see that that's actually all the way above us still. And so we're overextended. We're way overextended below the bull market support band. I suppose, what I was going to say there was something actually completely different. But what I can say now is that, at the same time as we're seeing bearish divergence, and at the same time we're seeing a pattern exhaustion just after a breakout, we're also seeing that Bitcoin is dramatically oversold, right? We're also seeing that something like the volume profile, if we zoom out, is in fact suggesting that we are currently at pretty major resistance, right? We're just about to head up a massive hill on the volume profile. And, with just 48 hours until the weekly candle close, it kind of begs the question, well, what's going to happen now? It's like, well, is Bitcoin going to get back above a 200-week SMA? If so, would that indicate that this was a fake out? And if it was a fake out, would it indicate that this was the bottom? Because look at 2020, for example. In 2020, what we actually saw was intense bear market. We saw obviously a black swan event, which was COVID, and we got hammered down here, and we closed just below the 200-week SMA. And then the next candle got us above it, and that marked a bull market, right? So if we're zooming into this current price action, we've closed below the 200-week SMA. Yeah, it's more significant than 2020. But if this candle manages to get back above it, it could cause, I wouldn't say a bull market, but perhaps at least sideways action before some sort of swing to the upside in possibly, later this year, 2023, as the macro situation gets better. Again, my opinion on the market is that the bottom is not in. And my opinion on the market is that we will go lower, but I'm just being objective here, and I'm just saying that, there is definitely a chance here. And Bitcoin does have a chance, and at least has a small chance that within the next 48 hours, we might see some bullish price action that could bring us back above 200-week SMA. Now, again, going back to the shorter term, I would say that this is actually a bearish pattern, and I would say we're seeing a fake out breakout above this bearish pennant. And I would say that next up, what we need to be seeing, in my personal opinion, unless by some stroke of luck we break straight to the upside here, we would actually need to be seeing a retrace all the way down to 19.7k once more, and possibly even a retrace back to the low here at 17.5k, or at least some intense consolidation. But I think what we're seeing now is a fake breakout to the upside. I think what we're seeing now is a bull trap. However, I'm not confident enough in that to make any kind of decisions at this point. I'm going to be waiting for the next 2 days, waiting to see what happens with Bitcoin, waiting to see what happens in relation to that 200-week SMA, because 2 days is a long time, right? 48 hours is a long period of time. We can definitely see some dramatic shifts in the market, and we'll no doubt have to talk about that again tomorrow. So just to clarify, just to go over a few points, right? 48 hours until we kind of determine whether the drop below 200 SMA is a fake out or whether it's an actual confirmed drop. And if we do get back above it, which I think is the more unlikely scenario, but it's definitely possible, we'd have to start considering, whether that is the macro bottom or not. And if we stay below it, that's pretty much further consolidation of the fact that we're probably going to be going lower on Bitcoin. So let's see what happens. Pretty big moment here. And before we end the video, I want to talk about the few things. So the first thing I want to talk about here is Wolves Crypto VIP. If you go to my YouTube channel and you click the join button, you'll see all the perks people gain access to who are part of the VIP membership. You can see for a price of 40 AUD a month, which is 28 USD a month, you're going to get access to exclusive altcoin trading signals, one every second day, prioritized reply to comments, a 2-hour video on market psychology, and also access to my personal trading view chart so you can track everything for yourself using my analysis. We've also got Become a Trader, a 10-unit course. So this is by the Crypto Academy, made by myself and Megawell Crypto during the start of this year here. We decided that during the bear market, it was the perfect time to create a course that actually teaches people how to trade, teaches people technical analysis, because a lot of people have a lot of spare time during the bear market that they wouldn't have during the bull market. And so it makes sense to prepare yourself for the next bull market by studying during the bear market, right? So that's why we created this course. And it's teaching you everything you need to know about trading, from fundamental concepts to market patterns, indicators, candlesticks, market psychology, advanced risk management, how to find trades. Everything you need to know is right here in this course. You can go ahead and check out the website or chuck us an email here at cryptoacademycourses@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you with the payment information and what the course actually looks like. So a format of the course. And lastly, what we use on the VIP and what we recommend people use for Crypto Academy is the BitGet Exchange. So people use Binance, people use Coinbase, we use BitGet, right? And BitGet specifically for futures. Now I do use Binance for spot, but specifically for futures, which is very important during a bear market as the market is in a downwards trend. You need to be able to trade short positions. And so this is the exchange we use for that. Why do we use it? Half the fees of Binance, non-KYC. That's all the evidence you need for it. We've got over 60 pairs on futures, gives you plenty of room for trading there. I highly recommend you sign up for BitGet. And if you do, please use my referral link in the description below and you can get access to rewards there. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.